Hello everyone, my name is Asisipho and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we are going to be looking at questions from previous question papers that are mainly focusing on blood grouping. So we look at the blood groups, which are obviously part of the genetics question, and we look at the four blood groups: blood group AB, and blood group O. So it's a very small subtopic of the genetics topic. It talks about the alleles of the blood groups, which ones are dominant, which ones are codominant, and which one is recessive. And also, you need to know how to do a genetic cross for the blood groups. So let us look at our first question, which is straightforward for 10 marks. Um, it was a 3.2 question. So human blood groups are controlled by multiple alleles, and we know there is, okay, well, I guess the next question is going to ask us that. So how many alleles control blood groups? So how many? Three. We know there's three of them, right? There is IA, IB, and small letter I. Okay, so this is just me writing them. You don't necessarily have to write them. You just needed to write the number because they said how many. Okay, so 322, which two alleles are codominant? So out of the three alleles that we have that control the blood groups, what are the two alleles that are codominant in the inheritance of blood groups? That is obviously IA. Let me erase that and write it nicely. I think my pen is a little bit thick. Okay, so IA and IB. Okay, then a man is heterozygous for blood group A and marries a woman who has blood group O. Use a genetic cross to show the phenotypic ratio of their offspring. So what we're having here is a blood grouping cross, and we are having a man, and a man is blood group A and heterozygous, and the woman is blood group O. So they've told us that the male is heterozygous for blood group A. That means his genotype will be IA, small letter I, and the woman is blood group O, so that means her genotype will be two small letter i's. Okay, so when we do the cross, it is still a monohybrid cross. We are looking at the blood grouping cross, so the format of the cross is still the same. So we write our P1, and we first need to indicate the phenotype, which is a blood group in this case of both parents. Now, the man is blood group A. Blood group A. Do not just write A crossed by O. No, we're talking about blood groups. Blood group A, and the female is blood group O. I'm just writing the A and the O below because I won't have space. Then the genotype of these parents, the genotype of the male is a heterozygous A. So IAI crossed with blood group O genotype, that is two small letter I's. Meiosis will then need to take place. You then have IA and I separated, small letter I, small letter I. So this one can also be written out like this. Okay. Then these will obviously be your gametes. Fertilization will then take place. Fertilization. We then cross out the gametes I, I, A, I, small letter I, small letter I. Okay, so then F1, F1, there you go, F1 We then need the offspring's genotype for the blood group. So remember, the same blood groups need to be grouped together when you are writing the genotype. So what are we having here? IAI, IAI. These two are the same. So you're having two heterozygous blood group A and two blood group O. That's the genotype. Then the phenotype, there you go. So two of blood group, you don't just write two of A, hey? Blood group A and two of blood group O. Now we need to answer the question, guys. They've asked us to use a genetic cross to show the phenotypic ratio. So that's what we need to show at the end. So at the end, we need to show the phenotypic ratio of the blood groups. So the blood groups that we have for the offsprings is blood group A and blood group B. So 2 is to 2. So 2 is to 2, we have to simplify it. So that is 1 is to 1. So 2 is to 2, therefore 1 is to 1. Right. Second question, 3.4. Human blood groups are controlled by multiple alleles. Name all the alleles that control human blood groups. There's 3 of them. So IA, IB, and small letter I. 3 marks. That's a lot of marks. How many of the alleles named in question 3.4.1 can any individual inherit? So from these 3 alleles that control the blood group, how many can an individual inherit? That is 2. Okay, so from the 3 alleles, you're going to inherit 1 from each parent, and they will then come together to determine your blood group. We know that IA and IB are dominant, and when they come together, obviously they'll be codominant to each other. Then small letter I is recessive. Okay. Give a reason for your answer. It's basically that. So individuals inherit one allele from each parent. So if you are blood group A, for example, the possible genotypes for blood group A is either you are homozygous blood group A or you are heterozygous blood group A. So that essentially means that for this example, homozygous, you inherited IA from each parent. So IA can be inherited from the mother and the other IA from the father. If you are heterozygous of blood group A, you could have inherited IA from the mother and I from the father. So you inherit one allele from each parent to determine your blood group. I hope that makes sense. Same if you are blood group B. Obviously, your genotype will be IA and IB. So that means you inherited IA from one parent and IB from another. They'll then come together. They are codominant to obviously give you blood group AB. Okay, now what we then having here, my memo is showing. What we then having here is a very interesting question. So 344 says a man has blood group A and his wife has blood group B. Their first child has blood group AB and their second child has blood group O. What can one conclude about the blood groups of their future children? Now, let's break down this question. I'm even going to change the color. Let me use the screen. Okay. Now, a man has blood group A, right? And they're not asking us to do a cross here because, I mean, I'm going to help you figure it out. So a man has blood group A. There's 2 possible genotypes for blood group A. This man can either be homozygous dominant for blood group A or heterozygous for blood group A. Then the wife is blood group B. Also, the wife can either be homozygous for blood group B or heterozygous. Now, they have a child their first child is blood group AB, so that will be IA and IB. And their second child is O, blood group O, so two small letter I's. Now, one can you conclude about the blood groups of their future children. Now, if you cannot figure this out, you'll then have to attempt a few crosses and see, because in this case, we're having two possibilities for the parents' blood groups. Now, I would say for me, them having a child with blood group O is a giveaway for us, because this child would then have inherited one letter of the small I letter from each parent. So that means it would need to receive the letter I's from the mother and also from the father, one from the mother and one from the father. That is basically telling us that each parent needs to have the recessive allele. So that ultimately, I almost said something else. So that ultimately crosses out or cancels out the homozygous um, genotypes of the blood group, because the man cannot be IA, because where would the child have received the recessive allele? Same with the woman. The woman cannot be IB, because where would the child have received this allele, the small letter one? Do you get it? Yes, ma'am. All right. So now that leaves us with the man having a heterozygous genotype for blood group A and the female having a heterozygous um, genotype for blood group B. So we're having an IAI crossing up with an IBI. Now the genotypes that we have at the end for the offsprings will be IA, IB, that's the first one, and IAI, that's the second one, IBI, and II. So what we can conclude about the blood groups, let's see what is happening. So now this will be blood group AB, this will be blood group A, this will be blood group B, and this will be blood group O. So there's basically a 25% chance, guys, of this couple having children or a child with any blood group. Because out of the four, there is a 1% chance out of the four that the baby will be blood group O. One, so not 1%, 1 out of 4 for the blood group being O. 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4. So there's a 25% chance. That's what we can conclude. There's a 25% chance that this couple may have children with any blood group. There you go. I've written the answer here. So each child has 25% chance of having any blood group. That's that. Okay. Another blood grouping question. Humans have different blood groups which are coded for by a number of alleles. Mary has a genotype of IAI and her son, Joseph, has a blood group of AB. How many alleles code for blood groups? 3. This question, guys, is very popular. It's very, very, very popular. They ask you how many alleles code for the blood group. There's 3. They are not asking you to mention them, but that is your IA, IB, and the small letter I. Now, 232 is asking you to give Mary's blood group. They have told you that Mary's genotype is IAI. This is a heterozygous genotype for blood group A. So Mary's blood group is A. Joseph's genotype. They've told you that Joseph is blood group AB. Now that means his genotype is IA and IB. Give all the possible genotypes of Joseph's father for 3 marks. Now what you are having here is Joseph, the child, the offspring, having a genotype of IAIB. Then parent 1 crossed with parent 2. You are given Mary, who is the mother, with the genotype IAI. You are not given the genotype for the father or the blood type for the father. But Joseph's genotypes are there to guide you, because that means that since Joseph is blood group AB, he needs to have inherited the allele IA from one parent and IB from the other parent. Now, since we have Mary's genotype, that means Joseph inherited the allele IA from Mary. You get it, guys? So now we need to determine the father's genotype that would have allowed Joseph to inherit blood group, or rather to inherit allele IB. So the possible genotypes is IB, because if the father is IB, Joseph could have inherited any of these alleles from these two. It is also possible that the father is blood group B but heterozygous. So if the father is heterozygous of blood group B, Joseph would have obviously inherited this allele IB. The father can also be blood group AB, because in blood group AB, the alleles that you have is IA and IB. So since Joseph inherited IA from the mother, he would inherit IB from the father.